Spectre Divide is finally here. The game has officially announced its presence to the first-person shooter world, and with everybody curious about Mountaintop Studios' brand new fresh take on a tactical first-person shooter, people are very curious on how each element of this game is going to work. One of which, and most notably, the ability system, but in Spectre Divided is better known as the game's sponsor system. Today, we're going to be breaking down every single ability in every single sponsor's class to help you decide which class you want to choose moving forward as you start your journey in Spectre. So I hope you learn a lot in today's video. We will be posting tons of Spectre Divided content, and if you want to keep up to date with everything going on with the game, make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel. But like I said, if you guys learned something, a like is appreciated on the video. And without further ado, let's get into the very first sponsor of the game, called Pinnacle International. So Pinnacle, along with every single other sponsor in this game, only have 3 abilities. There is no ultimate abilities as well. They keep the focus on strategy and gunplay. They don't want overpowered abilities washing over the competition. And so the first ability that we have on Pinnacle is the Splinter Grenade. This is the ability to throw a grenade which explodes into 8 splinters, which do 40 damage each, 75 seconds to recharge your ability throughout the round. The Splinter Grenade's standard throw allows you to throw this thing pretty far. You can actually get some pretty sweet lineups if you look on the mini map to see where the grenade will land. And it's great for clearing out angles that you know people peek often, or potentially pieces of cover you might think people are behind. When you throw this grenade, it ends up exploding and clustering into a little bit of an area of effect. So it's a great offensive tool. It also has a right click which allows you to underhand the grenade and toss it more vertical to get it over a piece of cover. And this once again has the very same effect as the left click, except it's a different throw. Moving on to the next ability in Pinnacle International, we have the Adrenalink. This instantly equips a Spectre Link stim, which heals you for 80 health over the course of 10 seconds. Your Spectre gains enhanced vision and ignores weapon move speed penalties while your character is popping this stim. This is a very basic ability. It's pretty simple to know when to use it. If you're low health, you can pop it and you'll end up healing up. Now, the powerful thing about this ability is if you're in a movement punishing zone or area of effect that an enemy has casted, you can actually pop this stim, switch your character to the other Spectre, and move through that zone with no movement penalty whatsoever. In addition to this, you almost get like a Bloodhound vision from Apex Legends, where the screen goes black and white and any targets who are on your screen will glow a bright red. So it makes swinging corners and pinpointing the next enemy extremely easy. A lot of potential of abilities in this game are locked behind high tier usage of your Spectre and being able to coordinate between 2 bodies simultaneously. And lastly, to finish it off on Pinnacle, we have a Flash Grenade, the ability to throw a grenade that explodes after 1.6 seconds, and it'll blind all players in line of sight of that grenade. It also has an ultimate fire throw, which allows you to underhand the grenade, and when you throw it, it explodes just after 1.0 seconds, so it's 0.6 seconds quicker to detonate if you're underhanding. The flash detonates pretty quickly regardless of how you throw this thing, but once again, the underhand can be good for throwing it over a piece of cover. In addition to this, no matter what, if it's in your line of sight, it's going to blind you, and it blinds you pretty long. The best way to counter getting blinded is to look away from the grenade. You still will get flashed, but it's only for a literal second, and then the flash goes away. So that is how you can counter getting flashed, or if you flash yourself. Moving on now, we're going to be talking about the next sponsor, which is called Morrgen United. Morrgen United's first ability is called Smoke Shift. This has the ability to throw a grenade that creates a cloud of smoke for 14 whole seconds. It also has an alternate throw, which throws a smoke grenade that you and your puck are delivered to at the same time. Enemies cannot see your puck's recall line, and this has a 60-second recharge. The beauty of this ability is it's one of the most mobile tools in the entire game to move your Spectre around. People can't see the recall line, so if you're alternate clicking and throwing your smoke, your Spectre will be right inside of there for you to push out of and clear sight or make a really aggressive push. The original throw, or the standard throw on this smoke, is also very useful. It's just good for clearing off lines of sight and allowing your team to make more effective pushes. It's also really good at clearing off angles, so it makes it tougher for enemies to push out of if they are trying to push a site and you're defending. It's a very simple ability. ability, but once again has some of the most effective usage out of any of the abilities that I've seen from any of these sponsors in the entire game. It's a very strong ability, and I think people will learn to be very creative with the Spectre puck throw as well. Next up, we have the Meltdown ability. This is the ability to throw a grenade that creates an area of caustic fluid, which damages players for 168 damage over 7 seconds. So this ability is kind of just like a zoning tool. It's something that isn't overly potent and isn't going to deter people completely from swinging or pushing angles. It's something to just kind of buy time if you know that there's one guy around a corner and it could stall some timeout on the round. This isn't going to be as strong as something like Pinnacle's grenade, which we just talked about in the last sponsor, but like I said, could make people think twice about a serious push. This would probably be the weakest ability on Morrgen's kit. And lastly, we're going to be talking about the Hidden Grasp ability, which is the ability to deploy a trap that cloaks itself after deployment, and it explodes if an enemy gets too close, creating a slow zone for 10 seconds. This ability is incredible. It's very good for controlling a site and allows you to clear your tracks if you're trying to make sure nobody is following you. It's an invisible ability. When it detonates, it creates a slow zone. It basically exposes anybody who's trying to push through a certain area and is an incredibly useful information tool. The best part about this ability is that it's inevitable and unavoidable. If someone comes across this trap and they want to destroy it, it's going to create a slow zone. If they don't want to destroy it and they want to move through it, it'll once again detonate and create a slow zone. If you properly placed it and cleared off an angle, it is going to create an obstacle no matter what. So a super strong information tool. You only get one of them, so make sure you use it wisely. Next up, we're going to be talking about Bloom Technologies, which is one of the coolest classes in the game, in my opinion. It's very strong. Starting off with its first ability, we have Hex Barrier. This is the ability to deploy a barrier that blocks bullets. The barrier is made up of 4 sections with 150 health each section. It has a 30-second recharge in order to deploy another one throughout the round, and this is just a great tool across the board. The Hex Barrier is an incredible information tool. What could be an extremely dangerous peak to swing out on and risk getting one-tapped is very easy when you put down the Hex Barrier. There's multiple parts of the shield, so even if someone sprays it down instantly, there's other areas for you to play and look for information around a corner. When you step too close to the Hex Barrier, it also kind of distorts your vision, so there is some balance to it, and especially if 2 players are 1v1ing around it, you want to keep a little bit of space from it. Essentially, this shield is capable of eating up to 4 operator shots from the big sniper, and that's just so powerful. It isn't a one-way shield, so you can't shoot through it and enemies can't shoot you. It's very much so just a source of cover, and so it's not completely broken. I think the Hex Barrier is going to be a super strong tool in ranked play, and I see this being on almost every squad. Next up, we have Twin Mend, which is the ability to heal a damaged ally in their Spectre for 80 health over the course of 10 seconds. Or if you were to take damage, you could alternate click this, and if damaged, you heal yourself and your Spectre for 40 health over 10 seconds. So it's a less effective self-heal, but it's still very versatile in that you can heal you or your teammates. And when you are healing yourself, it's healing both you and your Spectre. This is a pretty straightforward ability. There's not much else to explain about it. So we're going to move on to the sponsor's final ability, which is called Swarm Grenade. This is very similar to the Morrgen smoke. This is the ability to throw a grenade that releases a swarm of bees. The swarm blocks vision and creates a smoke effect and damages enemies inside of it for 100 health over the course of 10 seconds. So it's not exactly a mobility tool like Morrgen's is and can perform as, but it will do damage if you do throw it onto a zone you know someone is hiding behind. Overall, Bloom Technologies is a pretty strong class, and I definitely recommend you guys give this one a try. Keeping the train rolling, we're going to talk about Ryker Industries, which is the game's 4th sponsor. The first ability in this class is called Wave Scan. It's the ability to throw a sonar spike that pulses 3 times towards your active body. Enemies hit by the pulse will be located for 3 seconds and show up on a straight up wall hack. And the alternative fire of this ability allows you to throw your sonar spike but it will bounce one time off a wall, allowing you to create some pretty creative angles and spots you can get this thing to scan. The ability does have a 45-second recharge throughout the round, but like I said, these rounds go pretty quickly. 45 seconds is nowhere near as long as you might think it is. Now, this ability can be shot down by enemies. If an enemy sees it before that first pulse goes off, they can nullify the entire scan. So getting creative with the lineups and, you know, figuring out placements you can throw these things while pushing a site is going to be the biggest skill gap when it comes to this wave scan ability. I can already see the lineups people are going to create. Moving on to the sponsor's second class, it's called Hull Mine. This is the ability to throw a proximity mine that sticks to the ground, and after a short delay, the first enemy who gets too close will trigger the thing to detonate 3 explosions, which all deal 15 damage each pulse. Once again, this isn't too potent of ability, kind of like Morrgen's ability. It's not going to deal massive amounts of damage that you can really rely on to kill people, but you do get 2 of these things, and it is a great information tool. If somebody destroys it, you'll hear the shots. If somebody sets it off, it will pulse, and you will get a basically big audio cue and visual indicator of where that is coming from. When the hull mine is exploding, the entire zone pulses red on the floor. So like I said, you'll be able to see that. The most powerful thing about this is the fact that you get 2, so cutting off 2 lines of sight or angles and making people work around that piece of utility will make holding down a sight a lot easier. And last up, we have the Arc Sentry turret. This thing is pretty cool. It deploys a sentry that heavily slows enemies who get within its line of sight. When you're placing this thing, it just looks like a drone, and it's kind of difficult to understand where exactly it's going to survey. And this is pretty simple. If you look at your screen, there is a massive blue wall. The direction in which the blue wall is facing is the 180-degree radius that the scan will be pulsing. Once anybody walks within that scan radius, it's going to just slow them. It doesn't even tell you where you're getting stunned from. So it's a pretty inconvenient ability to get pinned by. You kind of have to locate the sentry and destroy it once you do start getting slowed. And when placing this ability, if you right click it, you can 180 the direction that the scan is going to be taking place. Most of the time, it's going to be looking straight ahead in front of you where you're placing the sentry. If you right click, it'll look in the direction that your character model is standing. So overall, a pretty useful tool. You do only get 1 of these things, but it's quite menacing and is really effective when directly on a site. If you're dancing around a box and someone's trying to 1v1 you, this little sentry drone could be the thing that wins you that gunfight. Now, the next sponsor we're going to be talking about is called Vector Dynamics. Vector Dynamics is probably the class that has spoken to me the most after really sinking my teeth into this game. Naturally, I like to think I'm a pretty aggressive player. Even though I am still learning the tac shooter genre, I tend to swing things without thinking about it and challenging everybody left and right. And this class really aids in the ability to do just that. Now, the one thing I will say about Vector is that it is a difficult class to play. It takes a high level of basic understanding to utilize this class's kit effectively, but I feel like once you invest a little bit of time and you start to see the vision and how you have to play with it, it'll start to pay off more for you. So don't give up on this class right away if you don't quite get it. It's what I would describe as a fast-paced class. Looking at the very first ability of Vector Dynamics, we have the Dual Amp, which is the class's most complex ability. You deploy a marker at the activation of this ability, and you gain a 15% fire rate buff for 8 seconds on your character. If you reactivate the ability, where you placed your marker at the initial activating of this ability allows you to teleport your Spectre instantly to that marker, giving the Spectre that you've now relocated a fire rate buff as well. So if you switch over, you'll now have a second set of amped effects with fire rate buffs. To finish off this ability, and the coolest part about it is every single time you get a kill while in the amp stage, it resets the ability and you can place a new marker. So if you're pushing a site and you're constantly getting kills and constantly relocating your Spectre, you can make some really big plays. Now, something not a lot of people know about this, and you probably won't see in the footage from the fire range, but if your character dies while in the amp stage and you end up teleporting to your Spectre, which is now your only body, as long as the marker is still active, you can teleport to your spot of death instantly, no matter how far you are on the map, if the ability is still live. So it's a fast-paced class. There's a lot to wrap your head around, but now we're going to move on to the second ability, which is called Vector Wall. I'm also a big fan of this ability. It allows you to clear off lines of sight really effectively and at a variation of speeds. The Vector Wall is the ability to deploy slow-moving nanobot wall that blocks vision for a whole 10 seconds. If you left click on this thing, it'll move at a walking pace. But if you were to alternate fire this thing and shoot it with your right click, it'll move more at a full sprint speed. I mean, there is no sprinting in this game, but a full walking speed. It's not a slow walk speed. The faster variation of this wall will only last you 6 seconds, but it travels the same amount of distance. It's just going much faster, which is why it lasts less time. And the final ability on this class is called Nanosphere, which once again is just another very effective tool. It allows you to deploy a bouncing nano swarm that deals 90 damage over 2.5 seconds to the first enemy it gets near. This ability is essentially a hovering bouncy grenade. You send it out and it starts to hover in the direction you deploy it, and any wall it hits, it will bounce off of. If you look on your mini-map, you can actually see the final destination it will end up after all of the bounces. And this is a really good tool for clearing out angles that you maybe don't want to use a wall for and want to clear out manually. You can also send these nano swarms through your wall and people won't see it or expect it coming at them because it does travel quite fast. And overall, I think Vector has a very strong kit. I think every single one of its abilities are extremely offensive, but they are all fast paced. So you have to know how to use them cohesively or you're kind of going to fall apart. Now that I'm done raving about my favorite sponsor, we're going to be talking about the 6th sponsor in Spectre called Ghostlink Collective. Ghostlink is another very strong class in this game. The first ability is called Partition. It deploys a wall that blocks line of sight for 8 seconds, and the wall is not stopped by terrain, and touching the wall slightly blurs vision with a 45-second recharge. If anybody wants to push or look through this thing, they are going to get their vision blurred as long as they're close to the wall. And in addition to this, I really like that it doesn't matter where you are on the map. As long as you're looking in a certain direction for a certain amount of distance, this wall will go through any walls, anything in its way. You're getting a clear cutoff of line of sight. Moving on to the next ability, we have the Dupe. This instantly deploys a dupe of your current body. It lasts 5.5 seconds. Additionally, as long as you leave one of these abilities in your inventory throughout the duration of a round, every single time you throw your puck and relocate your Spectre, the spot that the Spectre left will leave a decoy in place. But once again, this is only if you have at least one of these abilities still in your inventory for you to use during the round. The duplicate that it leaves behind will last 60 seconds, and enemies who shoot duplicates are revealed briefly. This includes the actual one you send out. These duplicates do make noise, so it can really catch people off guard if you know they're close by and you're making a swing. They're really effective tools to just play for information if you don't even want to peek the angle altogether. And if you've played Apex Legends and are used to not shooting mirage decoys, trust me, this game gets pretty intense and you will be punished for shooting this thing if your crosshair isn't in some proper placement. And last up, we're going to talk about its Dead Zone ability, which is the ability to throw a grenade that creates a large distortion field and blurs the vision of all players inside. It lasts 10 seconds. I really like this ability. It completely messes with your vision. If you're inside of this dome, you can't see anything. And the funny part is, it's just an effect that affects the player standing within inside this radius. Anybody looking at the actual zone that it places on the floor can just see perfectly fine. It's almost like you're entering the Bermuda Triangle of death. So avoid walking through these things. You'll most likely just die the moment you step into it. It doesn't slow your movement speed though, so if you are in a rush and you did need to walk through it, you could do so pretty quickly. And if you know nobody's there, there's no risk at notifying anybody that you stepped into the zone. Overall, Ghostlink is a pretty strong kit, and I'm scared to go against people who are good with this class. Moving on to the second last and 7th sponsor sponsor of the game, we have Muu Robotics. I actually really like this class. I've only used it a handful of times, but every time I have used it, it's been a lot of fun. We have the first ability called Patches, which is the ability to deploy a drone that moves forward and heals you and your allies in its radius for 80 health over 12 seconds. This is a really nice tool because if you know your teammate is across from you and you can't quite reach them, you can throw this ability to them and it will heal them by the time it reaches them. In addition to this, say you were pushing a site and you ended up peeking an angle and it didn't go so well, you got really weak and you're like, we're not going to continue pushing the site. We're going to rotate around the map and go push B instead. This is a tool that allows you to heal while staying on the move. Time is everything in this game, and when you need to plan or the bomb is ticking, you need to defuse, being able to do things while mobile is just nice. This does also have an alternate click though. If in the rare case you didn't want the drone to start running away on you and you just wanted it as a nice area heal for you and your teammates holding down a position, you can right click and it'll just stay in place. Moving on to the next ability, which is very fun to use, we have the Dazzler. It deploys a flying drone that follows your crosshair, and after 1 second the drone explodes and obscures the vision of any enemies in line of sight. This is just a flashbang and it's very controllable. It's super distorting to look at if you've ever been hit by this thing. It basically just makes your entire screen looks like you're tripping off some acid. Not that I've ever done that, but from what I've seen in the movies. And yeah, the controls on it are very simple. Just move your crosshair and bend around a corner. It's all good. But lastly, we're going to talk about Muu Robotics' third ability, which in my opinion is one of the most slept on abilities in this class's entire kit. It's called the Hyperdome. The Hyperdome allows you to throw a grenade that creates a permanent fast recall zone and 150 health shield dome on floor impact. The shield dome lasts for 14 seconds. So this dome isn't going to have multiple parts to it like the Bloom technology shield that you put up. It's one dome, and if it takes damage, it will destroy. But it is still a really effective tool to play around if you're in a pinch, or allow your team to walk out if you're trying to push a site. Being able to swing a corner, get that information, allow the shield to take the initial damage, and then pick off whoever's actually looking at you is useful when used quickly. I can't count the amount of times I've seen players who don't even understand that this ability also places a fast recall zone. If you guys don't know what this is, there are green zones that are naturally just around the maps in general, and these zones, when throwing your Spectre puck onto them, instantly recalls your Spectre to that spot. It's not quite instant, but it is so much faster than if you're to do it not on one of these fast recall zones. Like I said, it is fast, so you can consistently depend on it for fast plays. The beauty in this tool as well is that it's not just for you. Your entire team, if rotating around a map, if you're like, hey, I'm putting this zone down really quick, everybody throw their puck on, the whole team can rotate way faster than the enemy team could. But moving on to the 8th and final sponsor of the entire video, big thank you if you've made it this far in the video. If you guys do enjoy the video, once again, I appreciate a like and subscribe if you guys want to see more. But let's get into the Umbra Reconnaissance class. This class is a bit of a mouthful. It's a aggressive, information-based class, so you can kind of frag out with it. First up, we have the Recon Wing. This is the ability to throw a drone that sticks to the first surface it hits, and after 1.2 seconds, the drone reveals enemies within range for 2.5 seconds. The target marker instantly creates an area of effect at the marker that reveals enemies for 2.5 seconds. It's a 50-second recharge. This is just a really quick tool you can throw for information. It's much more aggressive of an information tool than the one Ryker has. It's not quite as big of an effect as the one Ryker does, but it's also not exactly avoidable. If you're in this zone, if you can't move out in time, you're gonna get scanned. Moving on though, we have the second ability in this sponsor called Pulse Finder. This thing actually has a ton of charge and is difficult to use at first. It takes some practice. Once again, the Umbra Reconnaissance class as a whole is more of a higher skill gap class, kind of like the Vector Dynamics one. It'll take you some time, but just don't give up on it. But Pulse Finder allows you to instantly equip the scanner that pulses every 2 seconds for 30 seconds. Enemies hit are detected and leave a marker at their location. detected enemies can see the remaining pulses, and that marker that happens when you scan them ties into that recon wing ability we just talked about. It's a great information tool, and what makes it also so great is the fact that you have so much of it. It's range limited, but it's basically unlimited, or at least it feels that way over the course of a single round. And then we have Glare Burst, which is the third and final ability that allows you to deploy a drone that charges for 1.25 seconds, and then it blinds all players in its area of effect for 4 seconds. This will go through walls, but it is a pretty tight space that it actually flashes someone. So you kind of have to know where they are in order to take advantage of this flash, or take a really good educated guess, because a little bit off and you're going to be swinging a fully visible target. But with this Glare Burst, it also has the target marker effect of instantly creating an area of effect at the marker that blinds all players for 4 seconds. So this whole class kind of plays around the pulse finder. I still haven't completely figured it all out for myself as well, but yeah, I think this is going to be a really high skill gap class, and I've already played against one guy who was super good with it, and it was one of the worst times I've had playing this game. He was abusive, man. He's whooping our bum. That is every single sponsor, every single ability in the entire game. I really do hope this video helped you learn something and kind of helped you decide which sponsor you want to pick moving forward into your Spectre Divide journey. Like I said, I really enjoy Vector. I enjoy Pinnacle. I enjoy Morrgen. Those are probably my top 3 favorite classes to play, but there is something for everybody, and it can kind of suit any play style. So yeah, I'll catch you all in the next video. We will be posting another video later today covering all the weapons in Spectre Divide, breaking down their damage profiles, and kind of giving my opinion, just like this video, on each of the choices. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'll turn on notifications so you guys get notified, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching. I will be streaming as well over on my Twitch. If you guys did want to watch my live streams, I plan to stream this game a ton, and so yeah, you can catch me linked in the description. Catch you guys in the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Keep up, stay up. Peace out.